So I love India. What I don't love is Indian electrics. Hey everyone, I'm Dan Jackson, aka Dan's the Engineer, and I am in India. I absolutely love India. I'm in Rishikesh right now. Lovely place, honestly. If you want to find out more about what I get up to, you can follow me on Instagram at Dan's the Engineer. So I love India. What I don't love is Indian electrics. This scares and frightens the absolute hell out of me. So I'm just doing this little video to highlight some things that I've seen, and I want to walk around this apartment and show you some bits and pieces for observation only. I haven't got test equipment, I haven't got literally any tools whatsoever. It's just purely a visual. And what I actually want to do is I want to go through each item and say, call it item 1 or 2 or whatever. And we're going to do sort of a coding, a bit of a Codebreakers. I'm going to show you it, talk about it, and then what I want you to do in the comments is put your comments on what you would code things and say a little bit about it. So we're going to go through some bits and pieces, but before I do, I just wanted to talk to you about some of the stuff that I've kind of seen in India on my travels. This isn't stuff that is kind of like really rare. It's very common, and honestly, if you think the electrics in the UK are bad, and I honestly believe the standards are quite poor, and I've come across some really, really dangerous situations, this stuff is just beyond, absolutely beyond. So, you know, I've seen things like open fuse boards, covers, for example, in a public corridor, like, and it's busy. It'll be like a public toilet or something like that, and a corridor. The fuse board's like shoulder height. Everything's open. Literally, everything's open. Sometimes these things are outside as well, so they're open to the elements, and people can just walk past. All it takes is somebody to lean up, lean up against the wall, against the fuse board. Electric shock risk. You know, honestly, and that's not just one. I've seen several. I've seen quite a lot, and there's even a cafe that I go to. I posted on Twitter the other day actually. It's just an open fuse board cover, and I saw a guy working in there on the fuse board, and I thought it was kind of a one-off, but no, it's been left like that. It's just open to literally anybody to go and touch. Other things I've seen is like feeder pillars in the street, which obviously I can't tell if things are live. It looks like they're live. It looks like it's, you know, still serviceable. Open cover. There's kids playing in the street, and there's cows that lean up against it. There must be high rates of fatalities and injuries of electric shock in India. There must be. If anybody can point me in the right direction of some statistics, I'd be interested to know. Anyway, other things I've seen is just the general metering, for example, and where the supply comes into the properties. It's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts. There's this one building, for example, I thought it was all like dead. At first I thought it was data and comms, and then I looked, I was like, no, that's coming off the power lines coming in. And it's the metering for like an apartment block. It's crazy, and the cables are particularly small. Obviously, there aren't large loads in these places. In this particular apartment, for example, there's a water heater, which is the biggest load. Other than that, it's just a couple of lights, a couple of fans. That's it. So the load is quite minimal. And the thing is, there's bare power lines literally running across like busy towns, for example. And it's just astonishing, like, to see, because you just wouldn't have it in the UK. But the other thing is, you've got monkeys. Like, there's monkeys everywhere. They're really, like, the monkeys are really cool to see, but they do attack people. Like, I've seen them go for people who've got food and stuff like that. And occasionally you'll see them like crawl past a window or something like that. I'm staying in an ashram, and I went to there's a dining hall, and I was walking towards the dining hall to pick up my plates. And imagine like Jumanji, and there's like a stampede of, if you just heard that click, that's the power keeps going on and off. Like it's regular. The power's probably off, equivalent to what it is on during the day. And there's a UPS here with a battery in here. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, Jumanji. Imagine I'm walking down this corridor, and there's just a stampede of these monkeys going past, and they're just throwing things around. They're really noisy, just looking at you, and then they just like run off. And I just stood there like, what the hell's going on? But that's what I love about India. It's just crazy. You just don't get that in the UK. You don't get monkeys. So anyway, let's go around some of the rooms now and to see some of the observations. So let's start off with what I just showed you actually. So this is the UPS. I don't really know, obviously you've got line and neutral there, cut out earth. I don't know if that's an earth, I have no idea whatsoever. But I want you to tell me what you would code this. Obviously you've got single insulated cables here. It's hard to tell what this actually is. I'm assuming it's the earth, but tell me what you would code it. There's obviously a join there as well. And what they tend to do with joins is just the bare copper, they kind of like just twist them together and then tape them up. That's what I've noticed. So tell me what you think about that. So that's the first thing as soon as I walked into the door. Right, the other thing, which we notice quite often, you'll see single insulated cables literally everywhere. So you see out this ceiling rose, it just goes into a metal light fitting here. So I'm not going to touch it, but obviously there's no protection or anything around the single insulated cables there. Now they don't look damaged, but obviously I can't tell. I haven't got the tools to tell, and I don't really want to dive too much into it. But I want you to tell me if you think there's anything wrong with that. So that's a fluorescent light fitting, and I'm just literally walking around as we go. Now, there seems to be two different types of sockets. This is one of them, and I really dislike them because you've got the earth pin here, you've got the line and the neutral. There's obviously different plugs that can go into these. But the metal, which makes contact between the plug and the socket, is only a few millimeters into the socket there. I really dislike them because these, I mean, that's my finger, but the holes are actually quite big and you can put stuff inside them. But I'm going to be doing a video on the plug sockets another time, so we'll go into that another time. So by the way, just to clarify, the first thing we looked at with the UPS and the plug, that's item number 1. The fluorescent light fitting that we saw is item number 2. So just put down in the comments number 1 and so forth. So let's go into the kitchen. Not that it's much of a kitchen, it's just kitchen cupboards, there's no appliances. Now this isn't in service, but I'll just sort of show you. This is an Indian plug. Let's see if it's got a rating on it. 6 amp it says. I think it does anyway. But I mean, seeing this is very typical. I mean, I don't even know what size conductor that is. It's tiny. Now it's only going to be a little pump. This is a filtration system, but it's mouldy, so we're not using it. But I mean, this is typical. Like you see this everywhere. Just joins. Right. So what we've got up here, you've got a baton holder, and then you've got a fan. I try and hold this up here. It's quite high. I can't actually reach it. So, I mean, it looks like that's line and neutral. So, in theory, those 2 red cables there are going to be 2 live conductors. Now, one of them, I mean, they're cut. So if you look there, it's cut there. It's still a problem. It's still live cables. So, that's not isolated. Is it live? Is it not? I haven't got a clue. I wouldn't be able to find out. But this is item number 3. I want you to tell me how you would code this. Obviously, the cable there is just lashed across. There's no support. Could be tugged on. It's a kitchen. And I mean, the fan's not in service. It's a gaping hole outside, which, believe me, lets all the mozzies in, which is absolutely lovely. So I'm going to go into the bathroom now. Now, obviously, bathrooms, it's a bit echo in here. Bathrooms have a higher risk because of the moisture, the environment they're in. So let's go through and see if we can find anything in here. Right, so the first thing that's caught my attention is up here. Again, you seem to have these ceiling roses just kind of everywhere. Now, I don't even know what size the cable that is. Look how small it is. It's absolutely tiny. And it's literally just sitting on the top of the tiles there. It's just sitting on the tiles, this tiny little cable. It looks smaller than like Cat5 data cable. Now look at this. This is a join. Look at that. The cable is absolutely tiny. Now, don't get me wrong, it's only a small fan. So this is the fan. That's the fan. You've got the cable that comes up here and it's just open connection there. That's plastic. Now I'm assuming they're just like things that just twisted together. I'm not going to go too near it. It's actually, the switch is off for it. But I mean, tell me about that. Item number 4. How would you code this? Now the other thing is, I just want to point about this is there's absolutely no guard on this fan, so when you turn it on, it's just the open fan, which allows any sort of external damage here that should usually have a grill on it, especially, you know, children, for example. It's not high, it's about chest height. So let me know what you think about that one.
Should I show you how fast the fan goes?
You want to turn the fan on?
Yeah.
Yeah, turn it on.
Okay.
No, Tony's going to turn the fan on. No, not that one. Not that one. No, turn that one back on. I just said to her, turn it on, and she's pressing all the switches. I'm like, keep going, keep going, keep going. Power's off. It's gone off again. Welcome to India. Right, so the other thing that's sort of come to my attention in this room, now it's this water heater. So the power's off right now, and there's, I mean, bear in mind, this is an electrical unit in a shower room. This is a shower room, so you've got the shower here, it's a shower room. There's no bath or anything like that. A little green light comes on when it's heating, and then you've got a little red one comes on when it reaches a certain temperature and it cuts off, so presumably it starts using power. Now this was on before the power went off. Now this cable, I believe I think it's a 2 kilowatt heater. Yeah, it's a 2 kilowatt heater. So it's via this plug and socket. Now this cable has been off for quite a few minutes now because the power went off. It looks really small. I can't confirm the size, but I mean, it's hot. It's really hot, so maybe it's undersized. I don't know. But this is item number, I think we're on item number 5 now, I think. So tell me if you think there's anything wrong with this water heater in this bathroom. And obviously this socket is, I'm 6 foot, it's head height for me. And I'm just gonna take it out. It looks like, I thought there might have been burns there, but I think it's probably just water ingress. Right, so the fan has come back on now. She's turned the fan on, so I'll show you that quickly. So this is the fan, open for any external damage or anything like that. So this is a second type of socket that I've seen. It's usually for higher power. This is a 16 amp plug, for example, and it's a shutter system, so the earth has to be in there and the pins open up. But again, I'll go about sockets again. Now this cable seems really, really, really loose in here. I can just feel it sort of shaking about. So anyway, I want you to tell me if they're item number 5, right, so that's come on now. Item number 5, if you think there's anything wrong with that. The other thing I want to highlight here, we've got a baton holder. Now don't get me wrong, it's at quite a height. Now, I personally, the ventilation system in here isn't fantastic, and the power goes off a lot anyway, so it gets really, really steamy. But I personally would always have some sort of IP fitting, for example, in a bathroom, going above and beyond the regs, even though, you know, prescribed zones and anything like that. But make a comment on that if you want. I'm not going to put it down as an item. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that there's no supplementary bonding in there. There's no main bonding or any sort of bonding in this premises at all. So I'm not going to put that down as an item again, but it's just an observation that I've made. Right, I've just come into another bedroom, and you have these sort of multi-way switches. Some have sockets on them. They've got switches. Now this is slightly, now don't touch. So this is slightly damaged here. Let me know item number 6. Would you code this as anything? What would you code it as? I'll be interested to hear. Now the switches, there seems to be a lot of switch banks here, but half of them, well, the majority of them don't actually do anything. The other thing I wanted to point out in this room is that you've got one of these fluorescents again, and I've looked at the cables here. Now, I don't even know, that looks like cotton wool shoved in there. It's probably like a spider nest or something, God knows. But what I've noticed here, you've got the single core cables there, but can you see that there's an exposed live conductor? Now, I don't know if that's line or neutral, but that's exposed regardless. I want you to tell me, item number 7, what would you code that as? I'm going to quickly show you outside. I'm going to show you the consumer unit, which is a recessed unit on the outside, and I want you to tell me if there's any observations, any codes there. So there's no RCD protection. Now we are on the 2nd floor in an apartment block, so there's obviously sockets here for general use inside. Tell me if you would code that as anything. Obviously there's other things relating to the board, nothing's obviously labelled, it's just all breakers, and if you notice there's a hole in the front, let me know in the comments anything to say about that. Item number 8, I think we're up to now. Now, the other thing I wanted to highlight is fire safety. Now, I can't help but when I go walk into any building, I observe the fire safety. Now, obviously, I'm comparing it to UK standards, to British standards. They're not going to be the same, so it's hard to compare what is acceptable here, what is not, what is their regulations. However, I'm just basing this on British interpretation, which I think going across the world is actually the regulations and how they're written are very well done. They're very well done, except, you know, a few exceptions of there's a lot of stuff in there making people use stuff that and materials and equipment that actually isn't needed. You know what I'm talking about, but there we go. But generally, the technical standards how they're written are better than other countries than, you know, some of the regs that I've read and sort of studied. But fire safety here seems to be a real problem because there's just such lack of it. There's lack of anything in place. So this apartment, like I said, it's on the second floor. It's quite a walk to get out, and it's not that straightforward. If there's a fire, I would be worried. I'm not going to lie. There's no smoke detection system here. There's nothing in the stairwell. Now, don't get me wrong, everything is all quite open. So if there was a fire in the corridor, for example, the smoke would go out. So there's obviously it's almost like a natural vent. Everything is kind of like open, but you can't get out as a human. Now, if there's a fire in this here, if there's a fire outside the front door, I have got a balcony, but we're on the second floor. It's not that straightforward to get out. You know, it is a little bit of a concern, but my biggest concern, my huge concern, and this seems to be most apartments I see, I'll just quickly show you, then I'll come back in. So on the inside, you've got this lock here, and then you've got this lock here. That's how you lock the door when you're inside the apartment. And on the outside, you've got this lock here, and you simply put the bolt across and you put a padlock, and that's how you lock the door. So when you leave the house, if you all leave the house, that's how you lock the door. If one of you leaves the house, the person on the inside uses these bolts and locks the door from the inside. Now, this is the problem. My 2-year-old goes to everybody's doors and starts locking them when they're inside. He puts the bolt across. Obviously, there's no padlock, but they still can't get out. And it's happened to us a couple of times as well, where we're stuck. Now, every door seems to be like it. In every apartment I've been in, the bathroom, we've got that there, and we've got the other bedroom. They all seem to be like that. Now, the kids a couple of times have locked me in a bathroom, which is obviously a concern because I can't get out. And the way the door stops are as well, if you had to sort of start barging a door, you won't, it's harder to barge it the way that you're being locked in from the other side because of the way the door's open. So it is a problem and it is a concern. It's not like people have got Yale locks or anything like that. So it's a huge concern. If there's a fire and somebody puts that bolt across accidentally, seems to happen a lot. We've been locked in other places as well. You're screwed. You've got to try and get out. So obviously you'd have to try and smash a window. And the thing is, these windows, for example, they all have these bars on them, and it's to stop. I mean, I don't think like theft or burglary is quite a big thing here, but they're there anyway, and you ain't getting in that easy. Maybe it's to stop those blooming monkeys getting in. I don't know, but it is a bit of an issue. So I do have concerns, and I hope to God there is no fire while we are here. There's obviously power goes out a lot. There's no emergency lighting. There's no signage. Even in some of the more expensive hotels, which usually caters a lot of Westerners, people with a little bit more money. And I've highlighted a lot of issues in these places as well, and it's interesting to see, but I can't let myself not sleep at night because of it. Otherwise, I ain't going to sleep in India, and I'm here for quite a long time. So guys, I'm going to wrap up this video now because we've got some things to do this afternoon. I hope you enjoy it. I want to hear from you, so put in the comments all your observations, how you think you would code it, and I'm going to be doing some more stuff around India. I'll see you another time. Bye.